I'm turning this barn into a woodworking and 3D printing shop. And since I'll be doing a lot of stuff I have no idea how to do, I'll be needing your help. And what is Jimmy DeResta doing in my workshop? I'll keep track of all the costs of the entire build and I'll let you know what I'll end up with. The goal is to do it as cheaply as I possibly can. What if you could make your very own workshop just the way you wanted it? What would you do? There's just one problem before we can get started, and as you can see there are two massive silos behind me and I need to get rid of those to build the workshop, but also the ceiling height, there's a lot of it, so that means I can build a secret. I'm not going to tell you about that just yet, but I'll show my plan later. So here we are behind the silos and what will eventually be my future workshop. But the silos aren't the only problem in here. I have neighbors. I don't want any cows in my workshop. Ooh, it's very spooky in here. It's almost like... Look at my shadow. It's enormous, huh? Look. Enough, let's get to work. So this wooden wall is just made to keep the cows inside of this small area, so we'll break that down, but I'll definitely keep the wood because this is good. Now this will be my biggest undertaking yet, so get in because this is going to be a hell of a ride. A feeling I think a lot of makers might have before attacking a new project is the feeling of not knowing exactly how it's going to be made. So what I do when I have that feeling, I postpone. I postpone like there's no tomorrow. That doesn't really make sense, but I think you know what I mean. Now, this project seemed like climbing Mount Everest to me, and that's also the reason I'll be needing a lot of help with it. Because this involves so many steps I've never done before, and I have no idea what we're doing. And just taking the silos out seemed impossible. And for that reason, I've been putting it off for way too long. But the good thing that I've realized is that just taking it step by step actually will lead to result. Stuff that I thought almost impossible before doing are just tiny things in retrospect. And when doing something this big, a new workshop, it will lead to a lot of newfound knowledge. So that the next time I need to do similar stuff, I probably won't postpone it as much. With that said, the first hurdle was just shoveling some cow shit out of this back room and tearing down a wall that's been there to keep the cows giving birth in that small back room. It does help when the kids join in and help though. Not really. Alright, it's the end of day one. We managed to get all the shit out. We managed to get the wall down. It's on the floor right now. Tomorrow we're attacking the silos. That's gonna be fun. So here's a man afraid of heights. It's 5 meters up and a fall would land me directly on a concrete floor. You can hear from my breathing that I'm not enjoying this. Alright, so I'm up here. There's a dead bird over there. Just a crate. Let's see what's... It's just an empty crate. But now, this is what we need to get rid of. And I have no idea how. Well, it turned out we could hoist that big thing down and eventually load it in the bucket of the tractor to get it out. But before we did that, I decided to do some problem solving on my own. So I'm currently up on the silos. As you can see, it's quite high. This cross brace goes across to the other side of the silo, and it also holds this middle piece in place. But I've disattached this, but it won't really come loose from the center there, so it kind of wedges, I think, which is a bit annoying because I can't go out there and actually take it off. That would be stupid and dangerous. So I'm just gonna try to figure this out. Haha, I just held my hand as far out as I could, and I could lift it up. So now I just need to take it down, I suppose. I got this sucker out of that hole, which was connected to that hoist and that big bar going down all the way, and the hoist is down at the bottom, so wait, I'm just gonna climb up here and see if I can disconnect the cables to disconnect the hoist so that I don't have to carry all this stuff down with me. So that yeah, the bolt is stuck. This second bolt I was gonna get off is stuck. And now, so this one is stuck as well on the second bolt, so I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna admire the view and try to feel content about it, because it sucks being up here in the first place. I don't want to be up here at all. And now I have to go down and see if I can find another tool. Oh, now the bolt is stuck inside. I can't take this anymore. Do I have anything sharp up here? Nothing. This is not going my way. All right, that worked. That one came off as well. I just realized maybe it's easier taking the cable off down by the hoist. I think I'm going to try that, because then I could just pull the entire cord up here, and then I could actually lower this down with this hanging from it. So I'll try that. Like so. Let's see if I can pull the entire cable out without it getting caught anywhere. Please don't get caught, please don't. Oh. Ouch! There we go. Oh, please don't tangle up in the cord. Please don't. Score! I actually got it down, didn't I? And with the tractor taking the last piece out, I could start throwing down the very wood I was sitting on. So you could say I went through some cognitive behavioral therapy through this venture. Okay, so this next step of this project... Hey. I don't know about you, but I'm actually really worried about getting hacked or that someone is trying to trick me into something. I want to make sure I'm safe. And one way to achieve that is with the sponsor of today's video, NordVPN. I'm glad you asked. So we live right here now. And when we go online, we leave a digital footprint leading right here. With a VPN, we can change that track to make it look like we're on the countryside in the UK or a barn in Greece. Now, why would I want to do that? For a couple of reasons. One, you stay safe. NordVPN won't track or share anything you do online. But it also protects you from malware, trackers, and ads. Have you heard of phishing? If you get an email from someone you think you know, it might be someone trying to steal your information. But NordVPN keeps you protected from that. Not only that, you can watch content that isn't available to us in Sweden because you can make it look like you're actually somewhere else. But that will also give you access to news sites and video content that you wouldn't otherwise be able to see. We can just install it on the phone right now. And you can also get protected with NordVPN. Click the link down in the description to try it out with a 30-day money-back guarantee. And right now there's a huge discount for a 2-year plan with 4 extra months.
VPN.
Perfekt! Så bra du gjorde det! There are some things I really need to think through before starting this workshop build. And in order to figure all of that out, I took a leaf out of Travis from Shop Nation's book and I made myself a small-scale version of my workshop. And here it is, and I've made this with 4mm plywood that I've cut on my laser, but really you could just make this out of cardboard, but where's the fun in that? Also, I've made a tiny version of Jimmy DiResta. That's him. Thanks to 3D DIY Dave, who did a scan of Jimmy DiResta so that anyone can print him, or any other maker, except me. But I did scan my face a while back, so I used that scan and put my head on someone else's body. So here I am, next to Jimmy DiResta. I could say Jimmy DiResta's been in my workshop. Anyway, I do think it's a really good idea to make a small-scale version of your workshop because it's so easy to move things around and plan around that. Even if you're not building yourself a workshop, you just want to rearrange your current one, I think it's a really good idea to see all the options you've got. So there were 3 things that I really spent time thinking about with this model. And the first thing was, what am I going to make in the workshop? Because if you're mainly going to do just one thing in your workshop, you can plan around that. In my case, I have no idea what I'll be making, but I know it's going to be woodworking and some 3D printing. Secondly, I'm a content creator, obviously, and therefore I need to think about things that aren't woodworking related, but rather camera gear and camera lights and stuff like that. Lastly, and I think a lot of people overlook this, is somewhere to actually take photos of what you've made. And of course that's important to me as a content creator, but I think if you're in the market of selling your woodworking, I think it's a really good idea and something that a lot of people forget to think about when planning the workshop out. Or if you have any other space to take good photos, that's great. But I want a big chunk of wall space available, not at all times of course, but it needs to be available to me to clear it out to be able to take good photos. And why do I think that's overlooked? Well, if I look online for product photos, there are a ton of bad product photos, and I do think that stops a lot of people from selling at their full potential. I'll get back to thinking around my workshop build later. I would say none of the things we've done with the silos could have been done without my father-in-law and my wife. And while we continue taking the silos down step by step, I need to mention some of the mistakes I made. The silos are made up of a couple of aluminium sheets held together with steel straps, and at the bottom there's a concrete block inside of the silo. The pipe inside of the silo you saw previously is the ventilation pipe for venting out the grain. So by removing the straps we could eventually carry out the aluminium sheets and face the concrete. Here's where the mistakes came in. I tried my small jackhammer to get the concrete broken into pieces. Not a chance. It was like poking an elephant with a toothpick. I had my father-in-law's angle grinder without the guard, but I couldn't get the chuck off it. My tool for getting it off bent when trying. So then I ended up buying a big angle grinder myself and a diamond blade. I did try that out as well, but nothing really happened. So I decided to rent a jackhammer, a big one, which I did. And for 6 hours I was stood there with the jackhammer, taking the concrete out piece by piece, until we decided to take out the vent pipes and the steel construction first. We got the tractor in, we took the pipe out, it was all working great. Then we connected a steel chain to the steel construction that was inside of the concrete, and we tried lifting it up, and wouldn't you know, the concrete came loose. And I'd spent some money on an angle grinder I didn't need, and the rent for the jackhammer that I basically didn't need. Now, as you can see, there is a small room at the back of the workshop, and that's not a toilet. That's actually what was supposed to be a pottery studio for my wife. That's what we initially planned for this space, but when I built the model, we could actually see that when we put the oven and the potter's wheel and some kitchen cabinets in there, it's going to be too tight. So making this model, I think, will save a lot of time as well, because it's a lot easier moving the walls in this model than it is in real life. I don't have to say that, that's obvious. The second thing I thought about was synergy. So here's what I think. My table saw is right here, it's not that big. I've 3D printed a work table that's also an outfeed table, and I want to be able to take a big sheet of plywood and cut that on the table saw, should I want to. So questions arise. Where do I take the sheet from? Where is it stored? Where does it outfeed into? Is there enough space? Stuff like that. Synergy is the interaction of all your tools and equipment in the workshop. Like if the planer thicknesser goes here, is there enough space to convert it, or do I need to place it somewhere else? But also, where does my dust collection go, and how do I connect the pipes to that? And just by putting the dust collector where I thought I would have it, I realized that I need to move the opening of the door slightly, because otherwise it's going to be in the doorway. Now, when we have good placement, we can think about the last thing, which is electrical and heating. Because now that I know if I want my table saw in the middle right here, I could have electric wires coming through the floor or from the ceiling. I could also have dust collection in the floor of the workshop. So one thing I haven't decided about is a window, because this is an outside wall, so I could have a window right here. It's not ideal for video shooting, but then again, it's a bit depressing not being able to see out, so I'll probably make a window somewhere. Now, the secret upstairs. Like I said, I'm a content creator and I do a lot of 3D printing, but I also record a podcast, so video editing, podcasting, stuff like that. And that will be in the upstairs studio. I'm working from home and I've kind of realized that it doesn't feel like I go to work. It's not that I'm not productive, but I have this feeling that I'm not at work for some reason. It's a mental thing, a disorder, some sorts. But what that means is, even though my families come home from work and school, I have a hard time separating if I'm still working or not. So I think having a separate studio or workplace, both for woodworking and editing and stuff like that, will kind of help me mentally with this thing. The upstairs studio will not cover the entire space, eventually maybe in the future, but it's a cost thing as well. And I don't need the entire space for now. So in order to have this space, I of course need stairs, but I've also considered making an elevator up there. I don't know, let me know what you think. So the rest of the shop, the thing that's in front of the workshop, inside of the barn, is going to be my father-in-law's workshop. But it'll also be space for me to take stuff outside. It's not insulated, but metal work, for instance, would be perfect to do there. The ground floor of the workshop is going to be approximately 7 by 7 meters, so around 49 square meters. And anywhere I can, I want to incorporate hidden solutions, 3D printing, and a bunch of cool stuff. So if you have any ideas, something you've done or something you thought about doing, let me know. I'm eager to hear. So here we are at the moment, and the things that seemed nearly impossible are done. But if someone were to ask me, would you come help me take down silos? No. Now, I said I needed help in the beginning, which is true. I know next to nothing about construction work. And what I do know doesn't really apply in here. I'm trying to take each new thing one step at a time. But after getting this room sealed, I need a plan for the rest of the structure. And one of the first things are the walls and the floor, of course. I want it to be insulated, and I prefer wooden floors in my workshop just for the feeling of it, and I also don't like standing on concrete for a long time. But I am on a budget, so I need to keep the costs contained. So far I've spent $331 on this project, and that was the angle grinder, the diamond wheel, and renting the jackhammer. But I will keep a chart of all the costs to get you included in that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.